Alright, so here we go with an adaptation of a hyper-violent character that rips off people's heads and eats their brains. That's rated PG-13. Again. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is brought to us by director Andy Serkis and stars Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson, Michelle Williams, and Naomi Harris. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is the sequel to 2018's Venom, Let There Be Violence Off-Screen, which was also one of the first movie reviews that I did on this channel, by the way. No need to check it out though, because those early videos are pretty fucking terrible. And how I felt about the original Venom was that it could have been better. It wasn't the best movie. It wasn't the worst, but it definitely wasn't the best. And one of the things I and many other people agreed that it really needed was an R rating. Venom is a violent character. I mean, he stays alive by eating human brains, so you know that's kind of hard to depict in a PG-13 film. Besides that, I wasn't in love with the CGI that they used to bring Venom to life. Now, much like I said about the movie as a whole, I didn't hate the look, but I just wasn't in love with it. There was something about it that looked too artificial, kind of like plastic. However, the thing about the movie that rubbed me wrong the most was absolutely the end of the movie. It just wasn't good. It was like someone just puked CGI on the screen, and it just was this ball of shit going around moving, and every now and then you would see Tom Hardy and the other guy, Riz Ahmed, I think his name was, like peek out for just a second, and then it was over and Venom won. It just wasn't a good ending in my opinion. That whole part of the movie was just kind of a muddled mess. However, overall, the movie was okay. Now, when it comes to the character of Venom, I myself am a pretty big fan of his. I actually own issues 1 through 5 of the original run of Lethal Protector, as well as the Amazing Spider-Man issue that he first appeared in. And even though the first movie was a bit disappointing for me, I was looking forward to this second movie, mainly because Andy Serkis was directing, and I think Andy Serkis really knows how to work with special effects. And if nothing else, I will say that about this movie. That part of the movie, like the lackluster CGI and just the whole CGI mess in the end of the movie, has been rectified. The effects here look really good. I also enjoyed the story of Let There Be Carnage more than I did the original Venom 2. Now, it's not too deep, but it is easy to understand and easy to get into, and it's a fun ride overall. And Woody Harrelson and Naomi Harris as our villains, Carnage and Screech, were far better than what we got in the first movie. This movie also moves at a lightning fast pace. It's only about an hour and a half long. That's a fairly short runtime for big budget movies of today. And honestly, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they had extended things out a bit. I never felt like anything was really missing. Like, I never felt like there were missing scenes and they were pressured into cutting the movie down or anything. It does have a consistent tone and pace throughout, but it is just really fast. Now, that doesn't mean it's bad, we just don't have a whole lot of time to connect with these characters. Thankfully, we've already connected with some of them from the previous film, but any new characters do come across a bit shallow. Overall, narratively, the movie doesn't do a whole lot more than the first one did. It just overall has a better pace and comes across as a more cohesive narrative. There is one thing that slightly shifts from the first movie to this movie, and that is the tone. This one does have much more of like a 1990s comic book movie tone. And I don't mean that in a bad way or anything. It has a very jovial, easygoing, kind of aloof tone throughout the whole thing. It's a far cry from like that dark and brooding kind of dark comic book movies that we were getting in the mid-2000s, or that super bright popcorn bubblegum kind of goofiness of the MCU. It's more of a freewheeling, kind of slightly corny and over-the-top feel. And I did really like the tone. It seemed like everybody was having a really good time making this movie. Now, speaking of everybody that was making this movie, this is where the movie definitely excels. Its performances. Everybody did a fantastic job here. Tom Hardy, just like last time, was wonderful. His internal and sometimes external banter between himself and Venom is the best part of the movie. If you liked it in the first movie, then you get a whole lot more of it here, and it is even better. They feel even more comfortable with themselves, which is kind of weird to say because he actually plays both roles, but you know what I mean. All the performances for our returning characters, such as Michelle Williams and Reed Scott, they do a great job as well. Now, they are more or less like they were in the last movie, but they do feel a bit more comfortable. And then there's Woody Harrelson as Carnage. This seemed like perfect casting, and I think that it was, but I do think that the story lets this character and the performance down a bit. I did enjoy Harrelson's version of Carnage, but I felt like we just didn't get much there. It was very two-dimensional. There are a few parts where they dive deeper into this character a bit, and I really enjoyed those parts, but they always cut it just a bit too short. And I do think this has something to do with the pace of the film. This is where that lightning fast pace that is a good thing at times can be detrimental as well. When it comes to this character, he just doesn't get as much screen time or development as we would like. It's not that Harrelson's performance is bad, it's just that he doesn't get a whole lot of time to have a performance. That being said, what we do get of him, while it is a bit shallow, it is still an entertaining performance, and I did enjoy his take as Cletus Cassidy and Carnage. Plus, I mean, just look at Woody Harrelson. He just looks like a Cletus. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the review, one of the things that bothered me about the first Venom was the special effects, or at least the implementation of those effects. However, this time around, with Andy Serkis behind the camera and his expertise in special effects, we get a much cleaner looking movie. There's not less special effects this time. In fact, there may be more. They just all look better and they're used better overall. Venom is still the same design, but he does in fact look much better this time around. But Carnage actually looks really cool. The way that they use him and his transformations are pretty awesome. I'm sure by this point everybody's seen the trailers and everything and knows that the movie looks good, and that is pretty much a good representation for the whole thing. This is overall just a really good looking movie. Now, there's one thing that I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to be pretty damn vague about, and I know it's something that a lot of people want to hear about, and that is the much talked about at this point mid-credit scene. Yes, there is a mid-credit scene, and yes, it is absolutely worth hanging out for. This is probably one of the most pivotal mid-credit scenes to be in a movie in quite some time. It is definitely one you don't want to miss. I'm not going to say what it is, but I will say that you're probably not going to guess at least everything that's in this scene. And while the things that are in this scene are cool, it's more the implications of what this could mean for this property moving forward that are the most interesting. However, I do have one issue with this mid-credit scene. It's not really with the scene itself, it's with how people are viewing the movie after seeing this scene. Now, it is a pretty killer scene, I will absolutely give it that, but does this one scene really make the movie that you just watched better, or is it just kind of a nice cherry on top? I think a lot of people are coming out of this movie right after seeing this scene kind of on this high because of everything that this scene implies, and I think it's kind of making people view the entire movie more favorable than they would have without that scene. And that's not me saying the movie's bad, I just think that people are kind of viewing the movie a bit better mainly because of this one scene. So just know, in a moment, when I give my rating of this movie, I am rating the movie as a whole, not just this scene. That being said, it is a pretty kick-ass scene that you don't want ruined for you. Guys, overall, Venom Let There Be Carnage is definitely an improvement over 2018's Venom. It has a lightning-fast pace that at times can be to its detriment, but overall is good for it. A more interesting story, great characters and performances, and overall just looks better and a lot less messy. While it definitely could have benefited from an R rating, and it does have some character development issues, it was still a really fun ride and absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
I have to return some videotape.
If they keep going at this rate with the Venom movies, in about 1 or 2 movies, we may actually end up with that awesome Venom movie that we all wanted originally. But as far as this one goes, if you enjoyed the first movie, I definitely think you're gonna like this one, and if you're just looking for a fun comic book movie for the night, then check out Venom Let There Be Carnage, and I think you're gonna have a pretty good time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Venom Let There Be Carnage. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys. And possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, San Francisco.
That is a red one.
You need to come out right now.
I will let you eat everybody. Promise. I promise. Oh, yeah.
Now, as a PG-13 movie, they do get one F-bomb in this flick, and they do use it, and they actually use it really well. I'm not gonna ruin it, it's a bit closer to the end, but I really did enjoy the way that it was implemented. I will say that as a connoisseur of the word fuck, I approve.